Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's webinar will be diving into a practical guide to AI, specifically how to improve quality in the software development lifecycle pairing with AI. The agenda for today will do some quick introductions, as well as setting some context that is shifting left in the software development lifecycle. And then with that, we can dive into how to leverage the power of AI in each of those phases in the lifecycle, specifically design, testing, and maintenance. And of course, we'll have time at the end for any questions that you all might have. So quick introduction, my name is Shannon Lee. I am the lead solutions engineer at Kobiton, and I'm here today with Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank Moyer. I'm the CTO of Kobiton. It's great to do this session today. I'm passionate about it and excited to share some of our findings.
It is very exciting to be speaking with you today, Frank, especially around AI, as you are coined, if you will, the AI visionary, so to speak. So I know you have a lot of great info when it comes to AI, and then integrating that within quality within the software development lifecycle. So it should be a really fun webinar for today.
Huge passion for mine.
All right, so just quickly setting the stage when it comes to the software development lifecycle and when we are speaking to quality within the software development lifecycle. We have found that when you shift left, so when you begin testing as early as even just the requirement phase, you have a greater return in investment when catching defects versus if defects were found later in the cycle within the integration phase or the even post-production. So in short, any defects found in post-production are going to be far more expensive to resolve. So we want to shift left in testing and make sure we can catch that defect sooner in the cycle. That way it's less cost and more cost efficient.
Yeah, and just to tag on to that, Shannon, what's different today than where we were a year ago is we talked about shift left. We've been talking about shift left for many years, but now we can leverage and pair with AI to do many of those checks earlier in the software development lifecycle. So this session is about doing that, how to effectively use AI to reduce your 10x down to 0.
Absolutely. Excited to just dive right into it. When it comes to the first phase we'll be speaking to is one of the earliest phases, and that is the design phase, particularly around UI design, so around the user interface, the user experience, and even accessibility, being able to pair with AI in integrating those quality checks to make sure that you're not missing anything, to make sure that the user experience is sound and makes sense. And so I'll hand it off to Frank to really showcase that and how we can improve the user interface and user experience and ensure that the application is accessible by all users.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. So the icon on the left is the ChatGPT icon, and the icon on the right is Figma. And so what we're going to do in this practical session, is actually taking UI designs and leveraging ChatGPT to help us check our UI design before we hand it over to the developers. And about 6 weeks ago, ChatGPT came out with the ability to do image processing. Before, you would send prompts through, like generate a story for me or generate a blog post. Well, now you can use ChatGPT with an image and a prompt to give you feedback on how to make things better. We're going to leverage that and see how good it is in telling us about our user interface design, our user experience, and around accessibility. So in this case, we take a screenshot. This is from a mobile app where the application is asking for a one-time passcode. This is an application that a designer and I worked on a couple of years ago. And I took this as an exemplar and I fed it into ChatGPT. And the prompt I fed it was, I'm developing a mobile application that uses one-time passcodes for authentication, and I want guidance on how to improve the user interface design. Here's a screenshot, and it displays an invalid code, 2 more attempts. Do you have any suggestions on how to improve the user interface design of this screen? And lo and behold, it's giving me a lot of good feedback.
It really is.
Error visibility, it says that it should be more prominent. consider changing the color to something that includes an error, such as a red, possibly. Error clarity, so clarify the message. It gives me, it says don't make the attempt counter so alarming. It tells me to the resend code option is not, I'm sorry. The one thing that I thought was interesting is it changed the color that indicates an error that's something like red. And if you look, it actually is red. Invalid code, 2 more attempts. It is red. So, some of these cases it gets it wrong. So you have to also keep it in check.
Right.
You'll hear the term hallucinating. Sometimes ChatGPT will make things up. And so it's a good way to check, but you also have to keep it in check. Down here, you start to see feedback on accessibility, color contrast. And on this one in particular, I might want to drill into a little bit more detail on when you say color contrast, ChatGPT, what specifically you mean when you say that. So there's some really rich and insightful information that comes from sending through this prompt, asking how I can improve the user interface design and how I can make this screen more accessible. This is just the starting point for how you can use it early in the development lifecycle to make sure that you're using AI to improve your overall application quality.
Yeah, absolutely. So at a glance, when I first see just the UI itself, it looks fine to me, right? It looks like everything's there, everything is functional. You might, from a user experience perspective, again, everything is on the page. I would not have known or would have thought about, or even maybe at that point in time, recognize accessibility, recognize maybe making the error message a little bit more prominent, recognize that there isn't a resend button, so to speak. Right. So it's helpful that this improves upon the UI design. That way the UI design is accounting for it first before it's compiled. That way, in post-compiling, far more to go back and change things, more expensive to go back and change things. So I want to just get it all in one swoop, and we can pair with AI to make sure we're not missing anything. So I think that's very helpful. Cool. And useful.
Awesome. Great. So now that we've looked at UI design, I'm gonna just briefly talk about development. There are plenty of great tools out there that help with code generation. Copilot, ChatGPT really can improve the creation of code, making the code quality better and making it faster to develop. But we're not going to dive into, in the interest of time, not going to dive into any of those. However, we are going to say, now we've got some code, and now we're going to jump in, and how do I leverage both Kobiton and ChatGPT to improve the quality using AI of unit testing in the ChatGPT side and end-to-end testing with Kobiton. Mm-hmm. So let's jump over back to ChatGPT, and I'm going to enter a prompt here. So I now have a function. My function that I'm going to use is just a simple phone number validation function. And I'm going to enter a prompt. So here is this, is it a valid phone number? And I've got two parts to this. One is the front end doing a quick validation, and then I send the code to the back end to do a more thorough validation. But I say I have a React Native mobile app as a function that validates phone numbers as follows. Generate unit tests for this function. And we're going to see, what all it provides in terms of how to test and some unit tests that can be generated. What's happening right now is
sorry to interrupt you.
It's giving me test cases, but I want code. I want real code. I love the idea. Oh, there it goes. So it's now giving me pseudocode for these unit test cases. I want real code. So I'm like, I want unit tests written in Node.js using Jest as the testing framework. And so it's going to actually generate code using Jest, tells me how to install Jest, and then it's giving me those specific checks, like it's checking that is within the country code. Does it have spaces? Can it handle parentheses? And so these different formats for the phone numbers. And now it's helping me think through different scenarios. Like it's making sure that it fails if it's got weird characters in it. This is a good way. I may have come up with my unit test myself to think through things. And it's this pairing with AI where it's a combination of it giving me ideas for other things to test, it giving me code to make that testing a lot faster, and thinking about different scenarios that I might add to it to say, hey, go a little further in this area.
Absolutely. I think traditionally, for me personally, in my time as a quality engineer, it felt like unit tests were always just left by the wayside. I feel like developers were always just so busy developing. Testers are always just so busy testing that there was no sound code testing, and for the unit testing specifically. A lot of lack of roles and responsibilities also. Sometimes developers feel like that should be the quality engineer's job or position, or software developer and test. Others feel it could be the developers. But the main point here is that, again, shifting left, having sound, solid, foundational code at the start of your application, at the start of the cycle, is going to just translate to a smoother, I'm going to say smoother, but translate to a better working or functionally working application. Again, having that solid foundation. I mean, you can imagine, building a house with using matchsticks or something. You want to make sure you have a solid foundation. Yeah. And here we can leverage pairing with AI and ChatGPT specifically to either generate that for us or also assist us in ensuring that we're not missing anything. Here we can also pair with AI in being able to help generate those scripts or generate that automation in your functional testing. That way it's no longer just continuous manual testing, no time for automation. Here it alleviates that, and pairing with AI, generate the script for you. That way you can participate in automation and, again, be more productive and efficient in your day-to-day role. And I'm going to showcase just that using Kobiton's AI capability of running a manual session, and then an Appium script is generated from that session using Kobiton's AI capability.
Nice.
So just going to navigate over to the Kobiton portal. And of course I had it on another screen, so we have it right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to showcase that manual session, and we're going to keep it short and concise, again, just for the sake of time. I'm going to launch one of these one of these Android devices. And I'm going to go ahead and install the Wingman application, Frank, that you've already introduced us to with the ChatGPT prompts. So at this point in time, the application has been designed, it's been developed. It is now on my desk as a quality engineer to functionally test through it. Again, I tend to do this more manual. I don't have time for automation, so we can pair with the AI to help combat that and to help get you started or get you going in automation. So for this test case, I'm going to make it simple in just ensuring that functionally this get started test case is working as expected. So that's going to be interacting with the first element of getting started, it taking me to the next page, so working as expected, etc. When it comes to this page here, I'm just going to pause. Something to note is that for the AI to generate the script for us, it is capturing the interactions that I'm performing on this device. And in those interactions, it's also capturing the technical identifiers associated with those elements that I'm interacting with. Apart from that, it can also generate the hard to automate gestures, such as swiping and scrolling, that can be very difficult from a mobile perspective. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and exit this session. And I'm going to just navigate to a session that's been completed just for the sake of time. It only takes about a couple minutes to generate. But from here, what I can do is, again, I ran that manual session. I can navigate to our Appium script exporter, be able to download it in my language of choice. So I'm going to be working in Java and TestNG. We also support it in Node.js and C#. I want to take a moment as well to introduce that we have just announced that what I'm about to show for you all today is also going to be open source So that way you all can also go in and try it yourself. So I'm gonna go ahead and download this Appium script. And I'm gonna get it unzipped. And just opening up my IDE of choice, we'll go ahead and open up that Appium script itself. So the script itself comes complete with the config file. So all the desired capabilities are going to be defined in this Appium script, including the device that it was originally ran against. However, this script is now Appium. It's now agnostic. I can modify this. I can change it. I can point it to other devices. I can even leverage TestNG to organize my test cases to run in parallel. The main part is that, at least from a UI perspective, that manual test case I showed to you all is now automated. So here are the test steps that our AI engine was able to capture and generate this Appium script from. We have, as I mentioned, the tech identifiers that are also captured as well. So here we have that get started element that I was clicking on. And so again, just showcasing that pairing with AI, for me as an automation engineer, it might take me 2, 3, 4 hours to create an Appium script, not to mention the iterations of just ensuring that the correct elements are being interacted with, et cetera. Here, pairing with AI, I've reduced that 4-hour stretch down to just 5 minutes, which is fantastic. So now what I can do is I can file this away in a regression suite, good to go. Or, as I mentioned, with it being editable, I can, from a UI stance, it's already automated. So I can drill a bit deeper into it if needed, make any hard assertions, make any database calls or API calls, or anything of that nature. So it's really great that in this day and age, once again, people are so afraid, as a quality engineer, is AI going to take my position? Is AI going to start automating things from a functional perspective? That answer is no. AI is not here to take anyone's position. What we're here is to pair with AI to make your day-to-day a bit faster, a bit easier. So again, instead of spending 5 hours to create this script, I now have it available for me in just less than 5 minutes, which is fantastic. So we can really leverage AI to generate scripts and generate code for you also.
Yeah, and our move to open source the Appium script generation is really meaningful to the industry, to encourage the Appium community to make it easier to get onto Appium. The two hardest parts to getting started with automation are creating your first Appium script and getting your environment set up. Mm-hmm. What this allows is anyone can go and contribute to. We actually, the Shannon, the C# example that you provided, that C# code was written by the open source community. So that was a contribution from the open source development community to create that C# generator. If you look at this list and you're like, I really want a Ruby generator, you can create that. If you want to change how the code gets generated for JUnit and Java, you can submit a pull request to make that happen. But we're trying to get more automation engineers and less technical people to get to automation faster.
Okay. So we have discussed how AI can help you in designing your application before you even create any code. We've also showcased how to test your code from a foundational standpoint via unit test, and also how to generate code for more end-to-end test cases. And here we can also showcase how we can pair with AI or have AI assistance when it comes to the script we've just created or an existing Appium script, and making sure that it is executable, that it's maintained, and that if there are any scenarios that might arise, that AI can come in and help self-heal that code. And so when I mention this specifically, I mean that there is always that pesky element not found on page. In my day and age as a quality engineer, that was probably the most frustrating aspect of it, because there's the element, there's tech identifier, I see it, I know it's there, and it still can't quite find it. And so your script will fail due to element not found on page. Or let's say you have a regression suite already created, which is a big feat in itself. And next you run your regression suite at night, come in the next morning and you realize that all scripts failed because the developer introduced one extra element into that new release. And here it has impacted the entire XML and all XPaths are knocked out.
So when
It can
you
be
look
very
at like
frustrating.
flaking, like test flakiness with mobile, is that one of the key contributors to test flakiness? Is that changes to the DOM or the XML?
Yes, absolutely. So anytime you make a change, that flakiness is always apparent. It can be very frustrating. So we can pair with AI in combating that and also help you self-heal your script. And I'll showcase just that. So, so navigating back to my IDE of choice. For here, I'm going to showcase the what we call our self-healing feature. It's currently FlexCorrect, but it is going through its own renaming at the moment. So to start, just showcasing a script and showcasing when it comes to the line of finding an element, and this script is going to fail due to element not found on page. And to start, we have FlexCorrect currently disabled.
Okay. So we expect this one to
running,
fail?
Just giving some context to FlexCorrect and what it is. FlexCorrect will come in using AI to not only scan your XML or capture your XML, but also have the ability to capture any XY coordinates pertaining to that element. That way, if there was a new element introduced or if that element was knocked out in any way, FlexCorrect will come in, scan your XML for the next best fit technical identifier, inject that into your script, so that way your script keeps running and it no longer fails due to element not found on page. So here we see the failure. Again, cannot find element by the accessibility ID. We're now going to enable FlexCorrect, and we'll rerun this script. So when it hits that line of code and it's attempting to search for the accessibility ID, again, it's going to scan the XML, find the next best fit tech identifier, inject it into your script, so that way your script keeps running. That way, when you come back in the morning to your regression suite, all tests have true passes or true failures, and you do not have any false negatives or false failures, or false passes, I should say. Excuse me. It would be false failures.
Sorry. So at the end of the this execution, if it corrects it, how do you get the new code?
Yes. So anytime there is a correction that is enabled or invoked by FlexCorrect within the Kobiton portal within Session Explorer, it will actually showcase the at point in time that FlexCorrect was invoked. It will present to it, the AI will basically say, attempted to find this XPath, could not find it. Here is the XPath that was found and used. That way you can easily copy that new XPath and paste it into your script. So not only is it self-healing, but you also have very easy maintenance on top of it.
Got it. And I see here, it looks like it's trying to find, it's not just using XPath. Oh, it worked, right?
It worked, so yes. So here we have showcased that it moved past that test step that was previously failing. It has moved past it by finding the tech identifier and then once again injecting into your script. So now in this script, we're hitting the other test steps that were currently blocked by the failure. And here we have a successful script that has ran and passed.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it tries to find it based not just on XPath, but it also looks at accessibility ID and a few other IDs to try to match. Okay.
So other tech identifiers, at the very least, definitely XPath will be a fallback, but it is attuned to first look for other identifiers, accessibility IDs, resource IDs. Last resort would be an XPath.
Great.